Hi, my name's Steve and welcome to the Seaside Allotment channel, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about my early tomatoes. Now my main crop tomatoes are tiny little plants at the moment and they're stuck at home, and yeah, they're a very long way away from planting out, which is just what I want, because where I'm going to plant them is in the polytunnel, and the polytunnel is absolutely full of stuff at the moment that you know, I'm harvesting and I will continue to harvest for about the next month. And so sometime in early May anyway, that's when I'm targeting to plant out my main crop tomatoes. Now my outdoor tomatoes aren't even planted yet, you know, not even sown. And so, you know, I like to sow things, the tomatoes, quite cautiously, just because of space. You know, I'm absolutely full up. I haven't really got any growing space, and I've got very little space that I can keep frost free without a lot of effort. And so I'm kind of always balancing the polytunnel and the greenhouse between too hot, too cold, too hot, too cold. So it just makes it a lot easier not to have tomatoes to worry about, and peppers as well. But I do play around with some earlies, just, you know, just for fun. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. So first up, in these little hanging baskets, I've got Tumbling Tom Reds. And because you see they're really baby little plants, but I think it's about warm enough in here now for them. And then here another Tumbling Tom Red, and down here a Tumbling Tom Yellow. Now I've noticed that the yellow tomatoes seem to do a lot better earlier in the year. Now whether that's true or whether it's just the luck of the draw for me, I don't know, but anyway, that's the Tumbling Toms. So I've just taken these out of the greenhouse, and these are Yellow Delight and Ildy, and you know, they're both yellow tomatoes, and I'm really quite pleased with the way they've come on. They have some slight damage on some of the leaves, as I say, because of my inability to keep them frost free, but I'm pretty happy with them. These are both cordon tomatoes. Now obviously I don't want these to go into the main beds in the polytunnel, because you know, they're for the tomatoes that I've currently got as little plants. What I want is just to pop these in pots, stick a cane in the pot and see how they do. And I'll start off with baby canes, just because I don't have clearance in the polytunnel for anything bigger, not on this trestle table, and then I'll add in a longer cane as the plants mature. Now I don't think I'll keep these plants beyond you know, sort of June, July time, basically when the main crop stuff takes over. I'll probably sacrifice them, because I'm trying to reduce the amount of veg that I grow in pots, just to reduce the watering. Now you can see these plants have got side shoots on them. Now normally I would pinch out these side shoots and pot them on, but this side shoot is not very healthy, so I won't be doing that, and these side shoots are just a little bit small, and of course I've actually got way too many plants as it is, so I actually don't need any more side shoots propagating. I've just done loads of those at home, and I'll show you that a bit later. Anyway, I'll get these prepared. So here's two that I did earlier, and I'll just quickly talk about how I'm doing them. Because they're plants that I'm going to sacrifice fairly early on in the season, I've just put them in my homemade compost, and then just a layer of spent mushroom compost on the top, and I put a little bit of composted seaweed and chicken manure in there just to give them a bit of food. Here's a pot ready for planting, and as I say, I'll put spent mushroom compost on top of that, just because there's weed seeds in my own homemade compost, and so I want to keep that these pots as weed free as possible. So that spent mushroom compost layer, a couple of inches, really helps with that. Let's take a quick look at these plants. I think I'm going to take this leaf off that side shoot, this leaf off and that side shoot, and then all these other side shoots on that one, and then I'll take this leaf off and this leaf off and the associated side shoots. So I'll get on with that. And so there we go, look a bit bare now. but plant them nice and deep. So I've started to tidy up the polytunnel a bit. Now this is where the tomatoes are going to go, down here, and obviously that bench will be gone, you know, by the time the tomatoes have grown up to that height. And this is where I'm going to pop the tomatoes, just on these joins here, 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 and then where those sweet corn are there, those are going to pop into the space in the greenhouse that's just been vacated by the tomatoes, and they'll stay in there for a few weeks until they get put into pots back in the polytunnel again. There are the sweet corn, and they're in this little double greenhouse, so greenhouse in the greenhouse, which means if it does get frosty I can close this up. But also I've been able to put this shelf back in because the tomatoes are too tall, and that means I've got another shelf, and all the brassicas are getting much more light, which I'm currently standing in. Okay, I'm out of breath now because these are pretty heavy actually, these tubs. Please I didn't water them. So just for pointing out, I put a little gully around the plant, and that's what I water into. That means the roots are sucked out from the centre to fill the whole of the pot, and of course eye savers, but more important, polythene savers for anything that goes in the polytunnel. We're back at home now, and these are my stock plants for cuttings, and these plants actually germinated last year, and as you can see they're flowering quite nicely. And there's actually a few tomatoes on them as well, maybe see. Yeah, so they germinated last year, and they just germinated naturally in the polytunnel from tomatoes that had fallen down into the compost. But you can see there's loads of really nice side shoots on them, and those can just be pinched out and dropped into water, and they will root quite nicely, and those roots can just be potted on. And then these are the last of my sort of playing around with tomatoes plants, and these, you can see I've got quite a few tomatoes on them. They're doing pretty well, quite a few flowers on them as well. And the history of these plants is that when I finished harvesting them in January, I just took some cuttings off these and potted those on, and these are the cuttings. So these plants were planted in maybe June of last year, and I'd say these are the January cuttings off those plants, and they're not the healthiest of plants. They do seem to get a little bit of mould on the leaves, but they're going nowhere near the polytunnel, these plants. They're just going to stay here, and we'll see what happens to them. And then finally, these are the tomatoes that will be going into the polytunnel in early May, first or second week of May, something like that. And by then they should be decent sized little plants, and yeah, I shall be only picking from this tray, which has got 40 plants in it, maybe 15 plants or something like that. So yeah, plenty there. Okay, so that's the end of this video. If you're doing early tomatoes, let me know how yours are going, and any hints and tips, because I'm very new to tomato growing. That's why I'm messing around like this. I've only grown them for a year. Anyway, I'll see you soon.